we're excited to be able to get this started. Really, it's just finding quick ways to show different functionality between companies, because everybody has different needs and things they're trying to accomplish. And a lot of times need breeds innovation and creating things that can be helpful to others. And sometimes when you're working, you only see kind of the perspective of your company. By being able to see how other people and other companies do things based on their needs and their particular situations, a lot of times it can help out. So that is kind of what we're looking at here. Along those lines, I figured I would start with the end in mind. So this is the end result of what we are doing as far as sending an email through a custom record. So this is full with attachments, and this piece is brand new. And actually, thank you to Steven's Edge from GYF. He created a workflow action script for us that works similar to an action, but it'll pull all of the different files that we're looking for. So this is a new added feature that we were just able to get locked in this week. But again, all of what you're seeing here is pulled directly through our workflow that is creating this email, including the body of the email, all of the specific field information from the custom record, and then hyperlinks to different parts of the record within NetSuite as well. So if we get started again, this is the end in mind. We're going to start past that a little bit at the opportunity, which is where I will show kind of the beginning of where our problem or opportunity to automate started. So within our sales process, we go through the native kind of opportunity proposal sales order process, but at the opportunity close, it's not really ready to send out to a full audience within our company. So as soon as kind of the contractual piece, we get the signed agreement from the customer, that is the point where our sales rep will announce it to our entire organization. So opportunity here, this is all of our specific information that we're looking at. We don't put any item information at this level, but we are tracking some dollar amounts within that. So that is our opportunity, and then that flows natively through to our proposal, which would include our line item information. So this is where we first start putting in different dollar amounts that should tie in to all of the opportunity dollars that we would see. From there, what we have going into the system is our custom record, and this is going to be the key to what we're doing. And this is our contract data sheet. It's a step that we add in before the sales order. And really what this does is it allows our contract admin and our legal team to get involved, make sure everything with the agreement is set, make sure everything is solid and ready to go. So if I'm thinking again about a sales rep, their first responsibility is create the opportunity, then the proposal, and then at that point when they're ready to announce the sale, they create this contract data sheet, and they would include all the necessary information. One note is that most of that field information is being pulled directly into the custom record from the proposal / opportunity, and it's populating many of these fields. So this is our contract data sheet. Couple things to point out. We have the submit for processing. So as soon as they push this button, that is the trigger point for the system to say that we need to send out this email and that this sale should be announced. And really when they were doing their manual process, they would be creating the contract data sheet, clicking on submit for processing, and then they were going into their email and manually constructing every bit of that email, including grabbing these MRR and one-time fee amounts, all of that information that you saw in that beginning email, they were manually populating and typing that in, along with the body of the email, attaching the attachments and sending it out. Now, as you can imagine, that's a lot of double entry, and the system's already doing a lot of that work for them, but they had a manual process on top of it to go send the email out to the rest of the company. So that's the opportunity. We found that, again, as soon as they clicked submit for processing, that's what was triggering them out to go create their manual email. So systematically, we figured if we could just trigger off of submit for processing, we would be in good shape. Now, one other piece that I want to show you towards the bottom here is we have our sales story. And if I go into edit mode, you're going to see that this is just a text area box that I made a little bit bigger within that field. So one field, text area, and that's it. And it's really neat because that will come out into the email exactly as if somebody was typing in the body of the email in their actual Outlook email. So that's set up. We also added in an area here, our file cabinet space. It used to be called, obviously, files. We called this for us the original contract documents, and this would be any of the attachments that you saw coming in via that email as well. So all of our information contained within NetSuite, no reason to go outside of it, including the original sales story. So everybody that wants to reference this today or later, they don't necessarily have to go dig through their email. They can go into the different records and find all of the information that was tied into that announcement email, and they're good to go. So at this point, again, we had our email, we showed the sales process, we talked about submit for processing is the point where this entire thing would trigger. And so as soon as I click that, it would send out my new email. One thing to note here as well, just in case you're curious, we have declining, so if it's possible that this CDS would be declined and have to go back through the processing step. What we're adding to our workflow to help with that is we have an original decline date that we're capturing. And so if this is filled in, then it's going to bypass the workflow to send that email, so it's not sending multiple times. All right, and just in case you're curious, while I was talking about that, this is the new email that came out. And again, this is to our mass distribution list and CCing, doing whatever on the back end that you would want as well. Okay, so again, we covered all of those pieces. The next part of this that's important is the email template. So this is how we are pulling in all the information. So I just called this our boom email because that's our announcement, the way it's called. But with that, so I'm saying new and then custom records. So all you have to do is pull in your field names at this point to start concatenating together your subject. So we put in our opportunity, name and number in there, and also the solution type of what was sold. So it's a new redoc sale in this case, because that's one of the products that we sell, but it would pull directly from the CDS. Same thing down here. The first thing you notice, in order to get that entire text area boxed and all of the body of our email in, all that I really had to do was put in that one field. So that would populate the entire front end of it. Then you can do some of your formatting things to make this bold or whatever presentation that you would want. And then it's just all of those fields again that you're looking for. Most of those, if you go into a field type, you could go into your custom current record. So in this case, it would be contract data sheet, and then you could find all your individual fields. The other place I'll often go to try to find that is save searches and do like a formula text. And you can figure out the field presentation of that pretty easily as well. Dollar signs, it wants that in there in order to lock it in, and we're all set. For the bottom piece, with our hyperlinks, this is where, and I'm not a developer at all, so a lot of this I learned just on the way through, but this div button right here will take you into the source code. And really a lot of this you can type in, and the nice thing with this is a lot of times to get the basic part of presentation here, I'll just start typing this stuff in here and it'll fill in the HTML for me. And then where there's specific places where I need help, or I know that I need the background of it, I'll go in afterwards and fill that stuff in. So if you've ever used this Ahref before, it's really powerful for creating your hyperlinks. All you have to do there is put in the system email address for all these different records. So normally if you're in a contract data sheet, this is always the same. And then they put in just the internal ID of the record after that. And that would go for any of your other records. Presentation is generally exactly the same. The only thing that changes or is variable is your internal ID. So you can look at it here. That's exactly what we're doing. I just paste it in quotes, what that entire address was, and then I am adding in, just in the place where the internal ID was, I'm referencing the field that shows my internal ID from that record. So it will always populate whatever the internal ID of the specific record is. And that, for the most part, goes through all of the different opportunity proposals, CDS, et cetera. I'm just looking at the IDs from those, from the contract data sheet where these records are being referenced. Okay, so that takes me all the way through that piece. And again, a lot of this was just retrieving these field names. Outside of that, most of it pretty easy to be able to set up this email template. Again, referring back to my point, you can do a ton of other HTML presentation things with logo and all that kind of stuff and probably take it well beyond what I was able to do or what I did to start. But this is a good starting point for some of these concepts. Next piece into that, which really is the last piece, and it's important to remember also that this workflow, I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. This is where the different stages or states, if you're familiar with workflows, come through. And based on the different stages within the custom record that you're looking at, different buttons are going to show up doing different things. So with that, if we double click into this transition, it's going to show that this is executing on that submit for processing button. So as soon as that button is pressed, it's going to leave our kind of first state and move into this submit for processing state. And at that point, it's going to run any of these workflows that are within that state. And that's what I'm going to be, or that's what I did leverage for this Boom email. And before, so it's really just the native send email action. That's what I'll show just to get started. Pretty easy within this piece. So again, just my general send email state. I can specify who the sender is. If I know somebody specifically, I put that in. I can show from field as well. Same type of concept with recipients, so you can drill in from a field, and you can also add CCs and BCCs. From here, this is where you reference your template within the workflow. If you just want to put in free-form text, you can also do that here and use many of the same formatting type of things that I use on that email template. Last thing here is you just have to put in your triggers. So this one I have where it's sending to the sales rep and bypassing everybody if they want to do a final review. This is the full one that's being sent out. And you're going to see it's pretty easy condition. So original decline date is empty, and we're not sending it to the rep for editing. Again, we're able to use our trigger point of that submit for processing button just because of the transition and moving into a different state. And same concepts here. And the last one that I will show you is the workflow action script that Stevens Edge, again, created for us, which we're really excited about and is pretty neat. It's going to leverage most of the functionality of send emails, except his script is reaching into our file cabinet, and it's going to grab any document there, and it's going to attach it to the email. And that's what allowed those attachments to show up. Most of this will remain the same, so you can add in the same conditions, have your same different types of triggers. The only thing that changes a little bit is what shows up down here. So this is where you're specifying in a little bit different presentation, your CCs, who's sending it, who's receiving it, the email template, etc. So I think we're right at 15 minutes, a little over. I was hoping to go a little bit quicker just so we had more time for questions within that 15-minute block. But overall, that is everything that I wanted to show. And I certainly, from my perspective, have time to answer any questions that anybody has.